Apes on tape. Hello and welcome to Apes on Tape's Sound Excited podcast, episode number 5. If you were with us last week, we talked to an organization out of Seattle called Team Up for Nonprofits, and this week we're talking to a band that played an event mentioned in the last podcast. I'm here with Ben Carson of Seattle's Hot Bodies in Motion, a band that I'm personally a big fan of, and you might have seen them on our site. We actually tried to get them at our South by Cascadia showcase. Ben, how you doing today?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Doing very well. Nice day outside.
Maybe where you are. It's pretty rainy in Seattle right now.
Strange. That never happens. Did I see you were hiking in the Olympic National Forest this week?
I was. I actually did go out to the Olympics. I got to see some bear. A bear. I guess some would be kind of a weird way to say that. A bear and a elk. It was pretty cool. Had a really good time.
I saw those pictures and got really jealous sitting at my computer at work, so touche.
Oh, yeah. It's not that far away.
I know, it's crazy.
The outdoors are so accessible out here, it's hard not to.
Very true. So we'll get into more detail about Hot Bodies shortly, but as always, I think it's more effective to check the band out yourself rather than I could say. So, Hot Bodies are playing at Maker House next Wednesday, the 26th in Seattle, right? I think it's where it's on 36, turns into Leary, basically, in Fremont, right?
Exactly, yeah. It's a really cool space that's it's kind of a new trend that started in Brooklyn area. It's a space that's kind of like a gym membership for people that do different engineering or design projects. People build prototypes there, and they have 3D printers in there. It's really cool. So it's this kind of industrial design space that they're turning into a venue for the day, and opening up this big beer garden area. So it's kind of an unusual venue. They've never really done shows in this space before, but I'm excited to see how it goes.
Yeah, it's awesome. I was reading about it after you told me about the the engineers making their own sound system and lighting, but it sounds pretty incredible. Definitely a different vibe to them.
Yeah, for sure. So, they're friends of ours, so we're excited to be a part of it and help make it happen.
Very cool. So we'll have the ticket link below the podcast, but backtracking a bit, not to hit the cliche question, but I realize I'm not entirely familiar with the Hot Bodies origin. I just know that it was you, Scott, and Tim started it in 2010, or?
Yeah, so it's Scott, Tim, and I that originally started, and we got introduced by our bass player. We got introduced to each other as he was moving to Nashville. So it's kind of this weird situation where we were all jamming together and didn't have a bass player. And then he moved back from Nashville and was like, hey, let me play bass for you, and we should start a band. So that's how it originally started. And then Zach ended up doing his own solo project, which he's still doing. It's really good. And then we got Alan Stone's old bassist, Tyler Carroll.
Oh, no way.
What's that?
I didn't know that.
Yeah. He actually got the job offer first when Alan started blowing up and started requiring a lot more travel. Tyler was still finishing up his last semester at college, and he had to decide between finishing school or just hitting the road, and he decided to finish school. And Alan proceeded to tour everywhere, and then we picked him up. It was awesome. It worked really well for us, and I think he still feels really good about the decision, but that's how we picked up his old bassist.
That's crazy. It's a good free agency pickup.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's like the draft. But as soon as Alan left on tour and I knew he was available, and Zach had, left to do his solo project, I was like, this guy is perfect for the job. And he really has brought a cohesive element to our sound, I think.
That's always good. And on a side note, did I see you were on a podcast with Alan Stone the other day? Maybe something about Bumper Shoot, or?
Yeah, exactly. I was part of an interview by Marco Collins, he's the original radio DJ that started playing bands like Mudhoney and Nirvana, really put Nirvana on the map. Just a legendary DJ, and he's the one who's heading up all of the podcasts for Bumper Shoot this year. So he brought a bunch of us in. Alan did it. He phoned in from Bonnaroo. But it was myself. Yeah, of course, yeah. So it was myself and then a local Seattle hip-hop artist named Grinch.
Yeah,
that were in
definitely.
Yeah, so it was a really cool interview, especially with Marco. It's a guy I really respect.
Absolutely. Yeah, Alan Stone also a great dude. He grew up really close to a ranch that I worked on in Chewelah on the east side of the state. But I remember I was hanging barbed wire out there one day, and he was going on Conan that day, and I was just like, where the hell did I go wrong? How did these paths diverge? But
yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing. It's an amazing story for sure.
Definitely. So stepping back, getting somewhat meta on a little rant here, I think if you look at Seattle music in the 2000s, the aughts, whatever you want to call it as a decade,
Okay.
Seattle was very well musically known for that brand of alt acoustic folk, however you want to describe it, with Dave Bazan and Damon Jurado, Fleet Foxes, Head and Heart, folk acoustic oriented. And it was kind of a ubiquitous sound. I was just reading in Seattle Weekly this week. They put it well that it was sort of this music that everyone was playing and listening to locally, but not necessarily remembering all of it, just because it was everywhere. And I love that type of music too. I'm guilty of the genres. I think I put out a folk love ballad album, or what you want to call it. But the reason I bring this up is that I think there's been a very drastic change in the Seattle music scene over the past few years, and it's two-pronged. One, with the hip-hop emergence, people like Shabazz Palaces and obviously Macklemore and a number of others.
Totally, and Dissatisfaction.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, I could go on lists, and Theoretics, too, I think, are in that. And then two, probably more relevant here, is this brand of neo-soul grooves that Alan Stone, Pickwick, and I would put you guys in there, too. Not to try to put everyone in boxes, but do you feel like that's going on? What did you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like I don't know. I feel like there's a vibe. Like, you're definitely right. I feel it, and I think a lot of people do too, and they're calling it like a soul scene. And I wouldn't disagree, but I think that that stems less from like direct influence. I feel like with Pickwick, it is a lot of like direct influence, but I feel like a lot of people would group Alan into that group. Some people would group us into that as well, and I think it comes more from like a desire to be like genuine and like to provide like an authentic experience. I think it also has a lot to do with like church background as well. Alan Stone's older brother was actually my youth pastor growing up.
No way.
So we both have
the world
like
gets smaller.
I know, exactly. So it's like I think that a lot of that comes out in our music, in our performance, and how we write as well. Just something that feels live, inspired, and something that like requires a reaction. So I think it's more out of like a desire to be like authentic or genuine, and going back to those original sounds.
And looking at Pickwick, I know they've said it a number of times that they were originally sort of that post-Wilco, acoustic, all type of band, and then they made the conscious decision to change. With Hot Bodies, did you guys have that conscious path going in, or was it just jamming and then that felt like that was the best style that worked out for you guys?
Oh, no, that was like the whole intention from the start. That's where we got the name Hot Bodies in Motion.
Yeah.
I think Scott and I were having this conversation about like what we wanted to play, and like I think naturally we kind of gravitated towards blues just because that's what we were familiar with. But it was definitely intentional from the get-go, from the start of our band, that we wanted it to be known and like that we were about like a show that was going to be like active, and we were talking about how boring kind of the stand and stare culture was in Seattle.
I was just going to bring that up, actually.
and even when like touring acts come through Seattle, they mention it. They're like, oh, we know Seattle doesn't like to like get into it. And I remember I saw Tennis at the Crocodile, and they were basically talking shit about how Seattle was.
I was at that show. I remember that.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, that really pissed me off. I think it pissed everybody off that she was like kind of talking shit, and. But she wasn't wrong. Like, Seattle does have that reputation, and I think it was wrong that she put us in that box too soon. But we started this band to directly challenge that, and I think that was part of what led to our like pretty quick we got a good fan base early on, and I think it's because we directly challenged that kind of stand and stare culture. And that was definitely our intention from day one, was to write music that people can dance to, that people can groove to. That was authentic and genuine. And I feel like that has been part of like the maturation process of our band. Was kind of finding our sound, being true to ourselves and our natural like inclinations as musicians, and then that translates into like a more authentic experience on stage for the people watching as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the band name Hot Bodies in Motion just matches completely once you've seen a live show. I mean, I've seen you guys in Seattle, Boise, San Francisco, and I'm always amazed that literally the whole venue is dancing. I think that's especially unique in a place like Seattle, like you said, the crossed arms stare pose. So it's a great development to see, and it seems funny to get philosophical about dancing, but for real, I think very seldomly do you see people really dancing at live shows with a band. You know, maybe like EDM or festival environment, but rarely at venue shows do you see that kind of participation. Yeah,
it's true, and I am delighted to see the types of reactions that we have seen, and yeah, I think it's like a beautiful experience, and it's connecting like us with the audience, and like we're up there getting sweaty too.
Definitely. It seems odd now to reflect on that maybe we'll look back a few decades down the road and be like, why were people just standing and staring for those X amount of years? Why was that the cool or best way to experience music? I think it seems almost like an anomaly now.
Yeah, and don't you like want to go to a show to escape, or not to escape, but like to not do what you always do, or like at work or at home, where you just sit and stare at a TV screen and like be entertained. I feel like it's a way to like get involved with what's happening around you.
Definitely.
In a social environment. So that's what we wanted to bring to the table.
And I think you have. Are there any particular Seattle shows or otherwise that stood out to you as like, wow, that was just dance party by all means?
Oh man. Yes, absolutely. But you're putting me on the spot. You mean one of our shows?
Yeah. Was there an experience too maybe that when you initially found that groove and people react and you're like, wow, this is what we're trying to do?
Yeah, it was our first show ever, and it's very well documented on YouTube if you ever want to find it.
Okay.
Scott's parents like really embarrassed him and brought like a handy cam and like set it up on a tripod on the back of the venue. And it was like our first show, and it was a bunch of like our college friends, because that we had just graduated at the time. And
did you guys go to SPU, by the way? To interrupt.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, cool.
Yep. Tim and Scott, or not Tim, Zach, our original bassist, Scott and I, we all went to Seattle Pacific. And in that video that Scott's mom, embarrassingly recorded in the back, you can see the whole room is just like bouncing, like just really getting into it. And I think because that video was like the first thing that circulated, it was like, people started sharing that video because it was the only way you could listen to our music or hear what we sounded like. And I feel like that almost set some sort of expectation, which I'm totally pleased with, because even some songs of ours that aren't particularly like dancey, like people still really get into them and like move to them. And I think that like video surfacing that kind of set that tone was a huge part of it. And it's still up there. And that was like the main way that people heard our music, was watching live videos. So when they came to the show themselves, it was like kind of a primed expectation. I feel that's kind of my theory.
Yeah. Well, and I've talked to you about the electric field video. Watching that, I think for as many live videos as you see nowadays, when you look and see that, it comes through. I mean, it's very clear what's going on. I think you can feel it, which is strange from a computer screen, but a true thing also.
Yeah, and like we had a write-up in Stranger once about our Capitol Hill Block Party performance, and they commented about how they mentioned that there was ample intra-band eye contact, or like that we genuinely looked like we enjoyed being on stage. And for them, that was like something that was remarkable for a live band. And I think that was like what their article was about. They're like, man, these guys were having so much fun up there. And like, we are. And I think that it's a genuine experience for us up there. Like, I love playing with those guys on stage. They're my favorite people to play music with. And I think you can see that in all of our faces. I was just going to,
facial expressions. Scott's facial expressions. I want to create like a Tumblr of them.
Yeah, he's definitely the best. I mean, Tyler is pretty outlandish for sure. But yeah, Scott makes some pretty memorable ones. I don't know. It's I think that's what connects with people.
Definitely. And have you had a hard time trying to translate that to recording? Because I know that can be, if you are a live-oriented act, there can be some, I don't know, lost in translation aspects when you're trying to record.
Totally, it's so hard to capture that vibe, especially when so much of it is like a mutual exchange between like the band and the audience.
Yeah.
Like we feed off the energy, and like it's hard to recreate that energy in the studio. For us, it had a direct influence on how we approached recording our, Principle A, where we did the rhythm sections live. We wanted our rhythm section to be the foundation of the record, the recording. So we did everything to tape. The rhythm section we did live, and some of the songs we actually did all of the instrumentation live. So we wanted it to feel live, and it also required us to be extremely, extremely tight together, especially our rhythm section. And we strive to bring that to the table as much as we can in recordings, and I think we did a really good job. But it's it never feels the same. There's just so much energy out of a live show.
Yeah,
and it's hard to translate that to an album.
Oh my gosh, I sat on an album like with the recordings for like a year just trying to mess them because it didn't come through. But I know that frustration, certainly.
Yeah.
But Principle A, so that is out now, right? And you guys did the tour this spring on that. But maybe you could cue us in on what's up with that and where we can find it.
Yeah, definitely. It came out in January. It's currently on iTunes and Spotify and SoundCloud. You can listen to it for free just about anywhere, or you can buy it and have it forever. Be a proud owner for $3.98 on iTunes. We also have physical discs that we are only selling at shows, and we only made I think we made like 500 of them, so we wanted it to be kind of a limited supply sort of thing.
Definitely.
Even our Old Habits physical